When I first heard the claim that the Bible teaches a flat earth, I laughed. I mean, how could people actually think the Bible teaches a flat earth? We know the earth is not flat by a myriad of evidence. I mean, we know for a fact it's a sphere. And the Bible is the Word of God. It couldn't teach the Bible's flat if it isn't, right? I had these claims that the Bible teaches a flat earth coming from all sides. I had them flying in from over here from atheists who wanted to discredit the Bible and laugh at it. And I had it flying in from over here from Christians who claim to believe the Bible and say that the Bible absolutely teaches a flat earth. So I determined I was going to study these passages and see what they say. To my surprise, flat earthers and atheists alike had a myriad of verses that they claim showed a flat earth in the Bible. Do you know what happened when I looked at these passages? I laughed some more. These passages do not teach a flat earth. And in this video, I'm going to debunk the claim that they do. Let's go. Welcome back to the Word Room, where we make difficult passages of the Bible make sense. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to keep this globe right here for this video, just as a reminder to those watching what that earth actually looks like. My previous video was on the claim that Joshua 10 taught that the sun stood still in the sky. Linked in the description for that video, you can check it out. And the amount of comments I got in that video saying that the sun could stop in the sky because the earth is flat and the sun moves in the sky above the flat earth alarmed me. Even more alarming was the number of comments that were saying the Bible actually teaches this. And I was deceived for not believing it. Specifically deceived by NASA, which is the Hebrew word for deception. I wish I were joking. Setting aside the fact that NASA isn't actually the word and it's just an abbreviation for the name and stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, it doesn't come from the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is not even NASA, but it's Nasha. Weird. I don't remember hearing an H in NASA. But setting all that aside, let's just dive into these verses that supposedly teach a flat earth in the Bible. And let's see if it's true.
The earth doesn't move.
One common comment I got several times on that video was that the earth doesn't move, it doesn't rotate according to the Bible. One of the verses that got pointed out to me that state this is Psalms 104 verse 5. It says, "He set the earth on its foundations so that it should never be moved." I'll deal with the foundations part of this later, but this says that it should never be moved, and so the claim is it says it doesn't move, so it doesn't rotate or orbit. But wait a second, flat earthers. You didn't read Isaiah chapter 24, verse 19. It says, "The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly." The word moved in both of these verses is the exact same word. What? So according to Isaiah, the earth is moving. That must mean it is rotating and it is orbiting, right? Well, the truth is, neither one of these verses have to do with rotating or orbiting at all. What is actually being said in this verse? Well, let's look at Psalm 104 verse 5 again, but let's look at it in a different translation. This is in the CSB version. "He established the earth on its foundations. It will never be shaken." So instead of moved, it uses shaken. The Hebrew word for moved here is the word mot. When it has the nephal stem like it does in this verse, it means to be shaken, to be moved, or to be overthrown. It's the idea of being destroyed. We actually use this same way of talking now. If I say the crowd booing did not move him, does that mean he didn't physically move? Of course not. It meant it didn't affect him or destroy him in his mind. This is how the word is always used within all of Scripture when it's in the nephal stem. Some examples. Psalm 10:6. "He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity." This doesn't mean the person doesn't physically walk or move, just means that they will not be shaken in adversity. Or Isaiah 40 verse 20, "He that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved." When it talks about preparing a graven image, this is talking about building an idol or making an idol. Is this saying that the idol will never be picked up from the place it's carved and placed anywhere else? No. It's not talking about physically moving. It's talking about being destroyed. The graven image will never be destroyed. What about Psalm 62:6? "He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. When it says I shall not be moved, is the person who is saved in Jesus, who's trusting in God, is that person not physically moving? Do they not walk? Do they not roll over? Do they not lay down and sit up and get up? Of course not. It's saying they won't be shaken or destroyed because they trust in God. And that same concept is being used here. The verse is saying that the earth will never be destroyed or overthrown, not that it does not rotate. No flat earth here. Next.
The earth has ends or edges.
Job 28:24. For he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven. The claim in the flat earth view, according to this verse, is that there are ends of the earth or edges of the earth, and you can't go further. It's the edge, it's the end in a flat earth view. But this verse does not actually mean ends or edges of the physical earth. We can see this by how it's used in Scripture. Psalm 67:7. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him. This verse says that the ends of the earth will fear God, as if there are people there. But flat earth models don't show people at the ends or the edges of the earth. The models show an ice wall and that it's uninhabited. So how could they fear God? How could there be people in the ice wall fearing God if the ends of the earth is talking about the edges of the flat earth? Isaiah 45:22. Look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God, and there is none else. This verse is talking about distant people outside of the land of Israel, and God is expressing his desire for them to be saved, not the edges where an ice wall is. Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. This is in context in Deuteronomy to Moses giving them the law and then listing out the consequences that will come upon them if they turn from the law of God. A nation from the end of the earth would come and attack them and take them into captivity. Setting aside the fact that there is no nation on the ice wall on the edges of the earth as in a flat earth model, this actually happened in history. Israel turned from God, and God sent or allowed the nations of Assyria and Babylon to come in and to attack them and to take them into captivity. But according to these verses in Deuteronomy, these nations, Assyria and Babylon, are the ends of the earth. These nations are in modern day Iraq and Syria, which we know are not on the edge of the earth. We see this even more strong later on in Deuteronomy 28. Verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there shalt thou serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Israel was scattered to the end of the earth, but they weren't scattered to the ice wall. They were scattered to Assyria and Babylon. And then in the Roman dispersion in 70 AD, they were spread all throughout the Middle East and into what we now call Europe. They were scattered amongst the known nations, not to the edge of an earth. Now, before you say, well, this is talking about something different than the Assyrian and Babylonian exiles, Nehemiah quotes this passage from Deuteronomy in Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 8, to tell us that this did speak of the Babylonian exile. So again, end of the earth is being used to speak of distant nations outside of Israel, not to speak of edges of a flat earth. It's just a figure of speech. No flat earth here. Next.
The word earth.
Now, it's important before we get into some of these next few verses to understand that the word earth in the Bible rarely is speaking of the planet Earth. They didn't actually have a Hebrew word in ancient Hebrew for planet. In Hebrew, the word translated earth is eretz, and it simply means land. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 10, God calls the dry land earth, eretz. But clearly the word earth here is not speaking of the whole earth, the entire globe, as in the planet, because the oceans and the seas, which are not dry land, are a part of the planet, yet he only called the dry land earth. In this case, the word eretz is talking about land. In Genesis 13:6, the same Hebrew word is used. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so they could not dwell together. The word here, eretz, or earth, is translated land, and it's talking about the local land, not the planet Earth. But it's the same Hebrew word. This needs to be kept in mind as we look at some of these other verses. Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, click that like button for me. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. Let's get back into it.
Job says God made the earth flat.
Job 38:14. It, the earth, is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. The flat earth view of this scripture says that the word turned in this verse means changed, not turned as in rotating. And the word seal means signet ring. And the idea is that when you press the signet ring down into the wax, it flattens it with raised edges. And they say this is what the earth is like. So it's a flat disc with raised edges, the ice wall around the edge. The big problem with this is that the Hebrew word for seal here does not mean signet. There is a reason that almost no translation, if any, translates the word that way. The Hebrew word is chotam, and the word does mean seal or signet. It can be used to speak of a signet ring, but that is not the only meaning. It can either be a seal or a signet ring. Seals and signets are not the same thing. According to the Dictionary of Biblical Languages, the word chotam is usually a cylinder seal design, though if on the hand, then a signet ring. So if this word is used to speak of the hand, then it means signet ring. Otherwise, it is a cylinder seal design. Here are some images on the screen of cylinder seals and the designs made by them on clay or gold plates. It rolls over the clay or softened gold plates and it makes imprints. So let's look at Job 38:14 again. It, the earth, is turned or changed as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. So this verse is saying that the earth is changed like clay to a seal. And the context explains this. Look at verse 12 through 14. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the dayspring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned or changed as clay to the seal, as they stand as a garment. So God asked Job if he had commanded the morning or caused the dayspring, the dawn, that sunrise, to know its place or when to happen, that the dawn or sunrise and its light might take hold of the ends of the earth and shake the wicked out. You can look at Job 24:14 through 17 for the context of the wicked being covered in darkness and hiding from light. But the sunrise or the dawn comes and its light comes, shaking the wicked out. It, the earth, the land, is changed like the clay when the seal rolls over it. When the sunlight rolls over the earth, in the day there is depths and contours visible in the earth. Just like when the seal rolls over the clay, you can now see depths and contours. That's the context of this passage. It's talking about going from night to day, the sunrise. Nothing about creating the earth or making it flat. So there's no flat earth here. Next.
The earth is God's footstool.
Isaiah 66:1. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you build unto me? And where is the place of my rest? So the flat earth argument is that the earth is flat. Think of the top of a footstool where it's just a flat surface. And so they're saying the earth is like this footstool, and there's a foundation underneath this disc where you would put your feet. And that's describing the shape of the earth. So it's a flat earth. If this is saying the earth is shaped like a footstool, then that would literally mean heaven is shaped like a throne as well, right? You can't say the footstool part is about shape, but the throne part is not. Does that seem right to you? The heaven is shaped like a throne, all of heaven? Or could this be talking about something other than shape? If this is literal, a literal footstool in shape, would that not mean that God literally puts his feet on the earth? This is not literal. In the same book, it uses another phrase that shows this has to be metaphorical and not literal. Isaiah 40 verse 12. Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with the span, or measured out heaven with the span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance? This says God measured out heaven with a span. In Hebrew, span is the word zeret, and it means a unit of measure, approximately half cubit, or the distance from the thumb to the little finger. That's a span. So if we are taking these descriptions literally, heaven is measured by the distance of one of God's hands, but yet it's also his throne? How does that work? How does he sit on something that is the size of his hand? Clearly, these are not literal descriptions, they're just metaphors. And if they are metaphors, there is no reason biblically or rationally to think this is describing the literal shape of the earth. When it talks about heaven as his throne and the earth as his footstool, it's simply talking about the scope of his power and his sovereignty. It's a metaphor. No flat earth here. Next.
Pillars of the earth.
1 Samuel 2:8, he raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. The flat earth view of this and other verses that mention the pillars of the earth is that the flat earth sits on pillars, actual pillars. So you've got the earth and you've got pillars underneath. But the context of this verse says otherwise. The first part of verse 8 is talking about God lifting up the poor and the beggars to make them sit among the princes, the rich and the powerful. The statement about pillars starts with the word for. And as many great preachers have said before, when you see the word for or therefore in the Bible, you should see what it's there for. So it says, for the pillars of the earth are the Lord's. The word connects the statement about pillars to the statement about raising the poor up to sit among princes. If this was literally talking about actual pillars below the earth, this statement wouldn't follow this conversation. It wouldn't make sense. It would not follow from raising up the poor to sit among princes. The pillars here are a metaphor for the rulers and leaders of the world. And God will exalt whoever he wants to rule in those places, including the poor, because the pillars, princes, leaders, rulers, are the Lord's. And he has set the world upon those rulers that he raises up. King David is an example of this. So this was not about literal pillars holding up a flat earth. No flat earth here. Next.
Foundation, Cornerstone verses.
Job 38:4-6. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? The flat earth view takes this verse to mean that there is a literal foundation and a literal cornerstone, and a globe earth would not explain that. But if you keep reading, gotta keep on reading, you'll see this is not literal. Job 38:7-10. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy, or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb, when I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. So the very next few verses speak of the seas and the oceans being shut up with doors and bars to keep the waves from going further. Is that literal? Are there literally bars and doors like a prison for the oceans keeping them in place? This is poetry. It's using poetic language to describe the creation, not using actual literal language to describe the physical earth and its shape and appearance. These verses are God talking to Job to show how big God is compared to Job, and showing that God is so big, he is the architect of the entire universe. He uses that architect builder language, foundation, cornerstone, to paint that picture poetically, not describing the literal appearance of the earth, but rather highlighting his glory as the architect of the entire universe. To make these verses literal is actually to miss the entire image of who God is expressing himself to be in these verses. No flat earth here. Next.
Circle of the earth.
Isaiah 40:22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. The word circle is seen by flat earthers to be evidence the earth is flat, because a circle is flat. A sphere is not a circle. The Hebrew word here is chug, and means circle, circuit, or compass. There was not an ancient Hebrew word for globe or sphere. The only other word they could have used is the Hebrew word dur, which also means circle, but is sometimes translated as ball. And this word is used in the Bible, and so they say, look, if he was trying to say the earth is a sphere, he would use the word ball. But this is not talking about a ball like we think of ball. That's just the English word we use to translate it. It's more of a circular rock, or kind of a rounded pile forming a dome. It's not a perfect sphere or circle. It's kind of a rounded dome. Wait, that sounds familiar. If the flat earth dome view was correct, and that's what Isaiah 40:22 was trying to point to, it would seem that they would use the word dur, translated ball, because that's the dome shape that it's referring to. But it doesn't use that. It just uses circle. So why just circle? Is this verse talking about the shape of the earth? Nope. The idea of this passage is addressing God's sovereignty or power. The word used for circle can also be speaking of a compass, turning to the north, the east, the south, and the west to form a complete circle. And remember, the word earth is eretz, which just means land. The idea is that God sits upon, is enthroned, or has power and authority over all the land as far as you can see to the horizon in all directions, north, east, south, west. The complete circle or land around you. God has complete sovereignty over it all. That's what this verse is talking about. It's not addressing the shape of the earth, so no flat earth here. Next.
Corners of the earth.
Revelation 7:1 says, "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor of any tree." In the flat earth view, this has to be addressing a flat earth, because spheres don't have corners. Well, first, neither does a flat circle. So that would mess up the previous verse. Second, notice the word earth here isn't talking about the whole planet, because why would it say the wind would not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor any tree? Are the seas and the trees not a part of the planet? If earth was talking about the whole planet, why specify the seas and the trees separately from the planet? Because they're a part of the planet. The word earth here is not talking about the whole planet, but about the ground where people live. We can see this if we look at Isaiah 11. Isaiah 11:12, "And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth." Here, the 4 corners of the earth are not 4 literal corners of a flat earth where the ice wall would be. It's just speaking of the distant nations they were dispersed to in all 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. Sorry, no flat earth here. Next.
Waters under the earth.
Psalm 136:6. "To him that stretch out the earth above the waters, for his mercy endureth forever." The flat earth view sees this as saying there is a deep, deep water supply beneath the earth around the foundation of the earth that the earth sits on. But that's not how it's used in Scripture. Exodus chapter 20, verse 4. "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." Now, how could they make idols in the likeness of things in the water that's under the earth if they had no idea what was in that water because it's under the earth? This is clearly talking about the ocean. The heaven above or the sky above speaks of making idols in the shape of birds or flying creatures, or the sun, moon, and stars. The earth beneath is speaking of things on the ground, humans, animals, plants. And the water under the earth is speaking of things in the ocean, making idols that look like fish or sea animals. Remember, the word earth, eretz, just means land. So the deep ocean goes below the dry ground, so under the earth. You can see this in Psalms. Psalm 24, 1-2. "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world, and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded upon the seas and established it upon the floods." It uses the language of the earth being founded on or above the top of the seas and the rivers, which is the word floods. It clearly tells us here that the water under the earth is the seas and rivers, because the seas and rivers are under the dry ground. Now, there are some other passages that people use, and maybe I'll make a part 2 of this, but I want to end off with the grand poobah of flat earth claims.
The firmament.
Genesis 1:6, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." So what the heck does the word firmament even mean? It is the Hebrew word rakia, which means extended surface, expanse, or firmament. So it's a word that can mean extended surface, which is how flat earthers use it, speaking of like a solid dome over the earth, but it can also just mean expanse. So does the text indicate that this is a solid surface, like a dome over the earth, or maybe some kind of non-solid expanse? Well, let's look. Genesis 1:8. "And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day." So what did God call the firmament? Heaven. This is the Hebrew word shamayim, which means heavens, sky, visible universe, atmosphere. But wait, there's more. Let's look at verses 14-19. "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and evening and the morning were the 4th day." So this tells us that the sun, moon, and stars are in the firmament. Keep reading. Verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that they may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So the birds fly in the open firmament. Most translations say across the expanse. The idea is that the sky where the birds fly is the firmament, the expanse. So this firmament is not a solid dome. It is the sky and the heavens, the space, what is visible to us from the earth. So what about separating the waters from the waters? It's just an ancient way of talking about the water cycle. The waters below, oceans, lakes, rivers, ponds. Remember how we talked about water under the earth, the waters below? The waters above, clouds and the rain that would fall from them. It's just an ancient way of saying the water cycle. So nope, the firmament doesn't prove a flat earth dome either. There is just no evidence the Bible supports a flat earth. And oftentimes people who think it does have not spent time actually analyzing the verses. They've read the verses on their surface level, some of them just hearing what they heard on TikTok and just go with it. This is actually a form of bias when it comes to studying the Bible. Want to know what those bias are? Watch this video next.